this is CMA's August webinar on digital marketing, how the new norm has shifted trade show spends. So out of respect of everybody's time, let's get started. All right, so in this webinar, what we're going to cover is staying in front of your customers from afar, digital marketing, explain the top 5 benefits of digital marketing, the case studies to support that, and all of this is really going to be tied back to, what everybody is used to doing in trade shows and where their spends go and how they prep and what the goals are for those trade shows. And ultimately, we're going to tie that into where things are going and what people have been doing to supplement what's happened amongst the craziness of COVID and how everything else has been shut down and what the world is transitioning to. So as we start looking at this, so the conventional benefits of in-person events and trade shows. Now, it's interesting because CMA is a unique company in that we actually manage associations. So we put on trade shows, conventions, annual events for lots of different associations, as well as do the marketing side of it. So we're in the midst of all of this and really being able to make the transition from what was happening before and how do we actually make it happen in a virtual setting or in a digital environment. So trade shows have long been heralded for driving sales, raising brand awareness, providing product educational showcases for new offerings, as well as the industry education and training, face-to-face networking opportunities, which has been one of the most challenging pieces of really getting people to understand that going virtual or digital is an okay thing because you're losing that human interaction. Forums to exchange ideas. And as we start kind of understanding what actually happens, right? And we'll go through and kind of take each of these on by themselves as we go through this. But let's take a couple of different things by the numbers. 2019 saw the global B2B trade show market value at $34.4 billion. Now, close to 80% of companies are spending, or spending, not 80% of companies, some companies are spending up to 80% of their marketing budgets on trade shows. So without trade shows happening in 2019 or in 2020, where's their marketing dollars going? How are they actually getting out there? How are they getting to their new business leads, their sales, their networking, their educations? How is that actually happening? And a lot of it had to shift, and it's a quick and rapid shift, but being able to adapt in business is what has to happen. In order to grow and thrive in these crazy times, you've got to be able to shift and adapt and really learn from what you're currently doing and be able to shift the marketing dollars to where you need to put them so that you are staying out there, you're staying ahead of the curve, and that you continuously grow and adapt so that your business doesn't fall behind. One of the things that's been so interesting in watching the trade show industry is that since 2016, there have been so many massive industry closures that, this digital era has kind of forced their hand in changing the way things are done. The Food Industry Association has eliminated their annual conference and has brought everything online. And it was an interesting piece. Hang on here. Turn that down. It was interesting to watch because there's so much that changes and you can see the digitization. One of the things, when I was looking this up on closures, on the Food Industry Associations, on their goodbye page was this screenshot here of the facts and figures. And it said by 2022, online grocery spending could reach 100 billion. Now, it's just an interesting thing because, 10, 15 years ago, you never would have thought that you'd be buying your groceries online. And now, going through the pandemic, we see so many people that are just doing the click and pull, where they just pull up and, somebody else is really doing the shopping for them. And they're just loading their carts or loading their cars after somebody's already purchased it, right? And it just goes through, and it's just how things are evolving. So the Food Industry Association has gotten rid of their event, and so have many others. One of the largest consumer trade shows is the CES. That's the Consumer Electronics Show. Now, this is, I've just graphed out quick here over the last 3 years, attendance from 184,000 down to last year in 2019 was under like we're close to 175. So you see it's a massive decline just in the past 3 years. Now that's still a lot of people, but think about how these shows are impacted now going forward. You have a year off basically in 2020 where everything has been shut down. How many people actually come back in 2021 or come back in 2022 when you see that Google has made the statement that no employees are going back to the office until Q3 of 2021? And it's wild just to see how these things happen. So what do you end up doing? How do you actually stay in front of your customers from afar? And if you're not going to trade shows? So here are the two alternatives that are most likely actually happening, or what you're going through or seeing out there in the marketplace. So you're either looking at the virtual events or you're looking at digital solutions in order to recapture that market and really start getting out there in a virtual way, from sales enablement, engagement goals, and being able to meet with new people to get your product showcases out there, as well as really launching into what I see is the next evolution of digital, is really how you get in front of the people at the right time with the right message when they're not gathered in the same place. Now it comes down to how do people find you and what are you offering them so that they can get to know, like, and trust you, and you can build a relationship with them. So let's look at this quick. I love this graph, and this is done in Google Trends, but this is one of the coolest graphs in what I see as recent history in the past couple of months. So in the past 12 months, I did a comparison of trade show and virtual event, and you can see right when the switch happened. And if you're looking at it, where this is pretty much March. Right here's January of 2020. Here would be March, and you can see how things instantly flipped when people all of a sudden had to start figuring out what's next. If all trade shows are shut down and nobody is searching for the term trade show anymore, they're looking for virtual events. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. You can look for the companies or the industry associations or the trade shows that went virtual. And by that, I mean the ones that didn't shut everything down, that said, hey, you know what, instead of or in lieu of meeting in person, we'll do this online virtually and make the best of it. And you can do lots of different things. There's lots of different programs. Actually, last month's webinar was on that, specifically on how to hold a trade show, convention, or conference, and the different tools to use when you're in doing so in creating a great virtual event. So when you look at this here, you've got the career hall, expo hall, training, auditorium, your swag bags, and you can collect on all of that stuff. But it's like actual people walking around looking at different things. And there's different programs and software that allow you to do this, which makes it very easy. So when you're looking at shifting your trade show budget, does it make sense to look at trade shows that have now gone virtual? Because exhibit space is no longer right in there, and everything should be a little bit less expensive. You're not paying for travel and all this other stuff. So it's just how do you get in front of the right people at the right time in the right place, so long as they are doing the marketing to get them there. The other side of it is to self-host one, is to actually put on the conference or event yourself. And that was what last month's program went through, or webinar went through, was how to actually do that. And there's lots of different things that you need to think through beyond the agenda, the pre-meeting planning, the marketing buzz, building it up, actually launching the event, and then what happens afterwards. Because there's a lot of the education piece that goes into learning management systems and certification systems so that you can actually get all of that information done. But it really comes down to the marketing of the event and how do you get out in front of the target audience to do so. And a lot of that ends up coming down to digital marketing anyway. So let's look at that next. So here, again, I use the Google Trends to compare trade show versus digital marketing. And I did it the same thing. I did it for the past 12 months. And what I found interesting was that there was a big jump, obviously, in less people searching for trade shows in March, and that there was an uptick basically in people searching for digital marketing. So let's expand that out. What does that end up looking like over the past 5 years? So trade show is in blue, digital marketing is in red. And you can see digital marketing's been around for a long time. I mean, I got my start back in 1998 building my first websites and starting to understand search engine optimization, email marketing, social media marketing. And back then it was MySpace and the like. So I'm pretty much dating myself, but you can see, this is for the past 5 years, so since 2015, that digital marketing and trade show marketing were probably the top ways that people were getting out there. And you can start to notice that in 2019, it starts to split where more people are looking for digital marketing. And then there's a massive gap, in March of 2020, when people stop looking for trade shows because they know they're not happening anyway. But there is then an uptick in people looking for digital marketing solutions and things like that. Me being the data geek that I am, I start looking into this further and say, holy cow, if we used all of Google's information and their databases go back to 2004, you look at the number of people that were searching for trade shows over the past 16 years, and it was massive back then, but you can see the steady decline in trade shows, and it probably correlates to the loss in trade show revenue, the loss in trade show attendance over the past 16 years. But you can see digital marketing is really now on an upswing, even though I've been doing digital marketing since 2004 or since 98, prior to 2004. But these are the things where you're still ahead of the curve. Even if you're just getting involved now, really start looking at how do you shift the budgets that you have that were going towards trade shows and leverage digital marketing solutions so that you can get out in front of the right people at the right time with the right message, and start building up your sales enablement programs, your lead generation programs, your product launches, and the education that you're typically going to those shows for. So digital marketing explained, right? Digital marketing has long been heralded as kind of like the equalizer, right? The World Wide Web was supposed to make every local business and take it global, and take every global business and make it local. And it's been one of the most cost-effective strategies for businesses, associations, to stay in front of your customers, especially during times like this when people aren't in their businesses. They're not at their houses, right? Direct mail is an awkward thing too, because, well, if people are sending stuff to my office, I'm not there, which makes it even more interesting. So why should people, travel and stretch their budgets when you can just do it digitally? So think of, I know for our associations, the board meetings, the annual meetings, you don't have to get on airplanes. You're not looking at hotel food bills and bar bills and everything else. Yes, a lot of that is the fun side of traveling around and doing business through trade shows, but ultimately, is the business actually getting done there? And that was always one of, the biggest issues with trade shows, was how do you justify the budget for it? So when we look at it, trade shows were great for new business, increasing brand awareness, networking opportunities, and industry educations. So translating that into digital means, let's look at, okay, new business comes from website and lead generation. Increased brand awareness moves over to increasing traffic and reach on your website, in blogs, in videos, and everything else. Networking opportunity comes down to social media and doing virtual events like this. And then industry education, well, there's lots of different learning management things and digital certifications that you can now do online. That's actually one of the pieces that we did for one of our lighting manufacturers, was actually building out a certification program or a continuing education webinar series for them. Before any of this actually went into place, we started this back in 2019 in running a series of webinars to get in front of the right people. You can't buy their LED lights from a store. They're not looking to sell them. This is for architects, engineers, lighting designers. And in order to get in front of that audience, we made a webinar series that was about continuing education, so that it positioned them as the experts, got them in front of the right people, as well as gave them a way to showcase their products and services, as well as, launch new products through all of this. So it's just being able to kind of take what you're trying to do and build out a different way to actually do it. Lots of different ways to do this. Video marketing, email marketing, content marketing, social media marketing, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, display advertising, including retargeting or remarketing and geofencing, as well as mobile marketing. Now, a lot has been written on these. You're probably already doing a lot of these, but now you get to kind of shift and look at, well, what were we doing at the trade shows? And how can we leverage a couple of these different solutions to actually achieve the same thing, but probably at less cost, less headache, and probably in more perpetuity, meaning it lasts forever. Instead of a trade show where you go, you collect a lot of cards, you make a lot of new friends, you meet people, and now all of a sudden it's, what do you do with that afterwards? And that was always, I remember working with a lot of different companies on their trade show strategies and saying, hey, what do you do afterwards? What's the follow-up process? Where do things go? And it became very hard to measure what actually came from it. And everybody always said, well, we got to be there because they're going to think we went out of business. And that's a valid point. It's a valid concern, but it's the same with social media. If you're not posting regularly, people think you're out of business. People wonder, well, what's going on? What are they doing? How come they haven't posted in a while? If your website's out of date, it's the same thing. So why not look at the digital means, which is typically your first impression to most of these places or most of your customers, and really get in front of them with that right message. And a lot of times, you know, the trade shows was about getting in front of your target audience, but it's also about getting in front of your distributors. So those annual events, there's new ways that you can actually leverage these digital marketing channels to actually get out there and build that launch product, or, you know, launch your product to your distributors and create the sales enablement tools that your sales team needs. So as we start breaking this down, we look at what are the top benefits for digital marketing. And really it comes down to everything that you can do at a trade show. The brand awareness, the lead generation, it's cost effective. There's year-round engagement. It's highly targetable. And we'll dive into each one of these a little bit further. So brand awareness. Now, marketing digitally will be the key to resilience as many businesses and associations mitigate against the loss of the face-to-face trade shows and meetings. And trade shows obviously have been, you know, a vehicle for developing the brand awareness, but sometimes it's not the best choice, right? The same objectives can easily be accomplished at a more affordable price online. And this is really about showing up in search engines, having your website there, being able to put out articles and videos and expand your reach so that people can find out who you are. This happens 24 hours, 7 days a week. Now, that was always one of the challenges with trade shows, is it was time and territory specific. So it was in a specific location. It was over a few days or a week, and then it was done. And then for the rest of the year, you had your shot at following up with all of the leads that you had and actually making something happen from it. Here, digitally, now you got to worry about your website, which is on 24/7, 365 days, never takes a break, never takes a vacation. There are no sick days, and it conveys the same message every single time. Now, I've worked with a lot of companies where that brand awareness and that messaging really gets diluted, or, you know, isn't really portrayed the best way by each salesperson. So you would have different messages going out. This way, your website will convey that message every single time in the same manner and really present you in the best light. In branding, it's super important because that's really where the trust comes from. The brand is about trust. You know, like at Nike, you know you're getting a great product with it. McDonald's, not the best example, but you understand what it is that you're going to get. It's not going to be the best burger, but it's going to be consistent every single time that you have it. And nobody says that McDonald's has the best burgers, but they sell the most of them. So it comes down to that brand promise and what they're actually getting. So have you ever thought or said, you know, if we don't exhibit that people are going to think that we've gone out of business? Because I know a lot of you have. But that's the brand promise. That's that brand awareness. That's showing up wherever you can with your website, with social media, with articles, with PR, and being able to stay out there with your brand. Next piece would be lead generation. Now, lead gen has been around for a long time, especially online. And it's really about the method of attracting potential customers, nurturing them throughout the buyer's journey, and then converting them into a customer. And it's crucial for successful marketing campaigns. This is really, how do you get in front of the right person at the right time with the right message and ultimately convert them through. And now in trade shows, this was dependent on the salesperson, because you had to meet somebody and hope they were in the right place, or you walked up to somebody at a booth, or you had scheduled a meeting with someone already and you were hoping to sell your products, your services to them. And then it was a follow-up process. So, and that was dependent on that particular salesperson. That salesperson leaves, they take their book of business elsewhere, as well as their contacts and the like. Now with lead gen online, you're able to get them into the website, build your own content management system, as well as have a sequential follow-up series that follows up the same way every single time without fail. And there's marketing automation that you can put into that, so that if they're saying yes to one question, you can move them into a different series and continue that process. Here's where digital marketing really comes in, because providing, the different lead generation strategies, from the pay-per-click campaigns to, getting, the right audience, the right traffic, qualifying that through landing pages, as well as then the follow-up series afterwards, and leveraging retargeting, creates a much more robust campaign, rather than just hinging 80% of your marketing budget on a trade show where you don't know what you're actually going to get out of it. So now it's time to really start reshaping your trade show strategies, and how do you leverage lead gen tactics to get you in front of that right prospect with that right message at the right time. So next is cost effective. This one gets interesting, because everybody trying to figure out, well, how do you measure ROI on a trade show when you don't really know what's happening from it? You can track, yes, I met this person at a trade show, but how long does it take? And when you're not face to face, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So here, the cost effectiveness comes in when you're not paying for travel. You're not sending people there. You're not developing the marketing materials. You're not spending the money on a booth. Again, some of these trade shows were, crazy intense with how they were set up. You could spend $100,000 just on your booth in the space for it before you actually did anything with it. And again, that's where proving that ROI becomes so difficult, because what comes out of it? And a lot of times it was just the brand awareness, and companies wrote it off as, well, this is just something that we have to do. Now with digital marketing, you're able to track who comes from where, how much you spent to get them, and then lifetime value of the customer is how much have they spent with you since becoming a customer. This becomes way more cost effective and way more measurable than any of the other times that you've actually been through the trade show process. So it's difficult to measure ROI on trade shows, and they just chalk it up to, well, it's part of doing business. And then you start looking at, well, trade shows, you'd count the number of new connections that you had and the quality of those conversations, but it never really amounted to an actual or direct ROI. Digital allows for the opposite, right? You'll see the flow of traffic, the number of visitors, the number of leads generated, and tie it directly to the deals that are done through that. This saves you on time, the planning, the booth, the exhibiting, the materials, shipping costs, because that gets ridiculous. Then you have refurbishing the booth once it comes back because it gets beat up in transit, and just the cost of exhibiting and attending, plus the food and beverage bill, and then all the employee expense reports. Next, year-round engagement. Like I said, trade shows were always time and territory specific. So it was one trade show, most likely each year, and you put face-to-face with hundreds, sometimes thousands of qualified attendees, which you had no idea whether they had the decision-making power that you actually needed. And then, trying to run around the floor, hit different booths and things like that. Now, digital marketing wise, right, you've got your website, you've got, traffic coming to you through the blogs, through pay-per-click, through your lead generation strategies, through social media, through email marketing, and it's continuous. It's nonstop. that 24/7, 365 truly is key to all of this. You're not limited to the number of conversations you can have just in that 3-day or 5-day period, because you can schedule these out all year round. And that's one of the best parts about having a robust digital strategy and being able to shift your budget from trade shows. Now you can really show, hey, if we did this right, trade shows would be a thing of the past, right? The big debate on the follow-up process of, well, how do we follow up? What are we actually going to send these people is gone, because with digital, you can do this. You can change up the emails. You can change the landing pages. You can change the videos in way quicker fashion than it was to send out print materials or things like that, and then leverage social advertising to target those people. Bring it around with retargeting so that people keep coming back to you and seeing your brand, and it makes it that much simpler and more engaging. And obviously, it's super targeted. That's one of the best things with being able to do digital marketing. And if you look at just, right, so Google is fantastic on the search side of it, being able to do pay-per-click advertising, because it's people who are searching for products or services or problems, and you're able to bid on those key phrases and see how people are responding to it directly. Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram advertising took it to a whole new level. The amount of information that they have on the people that you are advertising through it, in saying, the demographics, the psychographics, who they're tied to, what pages they like, really start to kind of blow your mind as far as how targeted you could get with those types of people and those platforms. So the more targeted you are, the better the message, because you can talk directly to people, and that's the best piece of being able to write different ads that target different people. And you can relate to your prospects or customers and drive them to different landing pages, and not just hand out a business card or a brochure that's very generic. You can make tailored campaigns throughout your entire buyer's journey. So all your different target audiences will have different campaigns that drive people through the entire process. You get to highlight different stories that relate to your prospects, and between Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, you can hyper-target based on the demographics, the psychographics, as well as geography, so that you are getting people the right message at the right time in the right place. So let's look at a case study that we did. And this is for one of our clients. They pivoted to a virtual, a hybrid of events to allow members and clients to continue to meet. And what we did was delivered a series of solutions in a range from virtual conferences to town halls to trainings to digital marketing. And the whole goal was really to create memorable experiences among the new norm. And the way we did that, with all of the virtual annual conferences coming up for the fall, we were able to kind of start piecing together ways to baby step into this. So whether it wasn't full-on conferences, you didn't have to jump directly in. You could start kind of dipping your toe in the water to see how it would work and how things would run. So what we did was the event was really about showcasing virtual roundtables where attendees could gather in different meeting rooms and discuss different topics of their own interests. So you could kind of still get that in-person group meeting piece of it, right? Like-minded people in one single room, and then keep going from there. And the whole point was to keep the client's overarching digital strategies in mind while doing this, and say, hey, here's ultimately what we're trying to get to. And this was the toe dipping in the water. This is really about building a virtual panel discussion that provided critical communication. Now, APSNA is the American Pediatric Surgical Nurses Association. And what we had put together was basically a Facebook Live. And this was a quick and easy way to do it without going crazy on annual events or the Zoom platform or looking at different conferencing platform. This was a quick and easy way to build the engagement, leverage Facebook Live, which was something new for them. And they knew their nurses were primarily on Facebook. So it was one of the easier ways to get in front of their audience. And what ended up happening was we had 4,000 members reached for it. It generated 229 clicks. There were 87 reactions and then 20 live comments. And with that, they were thrilled with that because they weren't sure what to expect. And it's easier to fail on a small scale than it is on a massive scale. But they were super happy with this because of the interactions that they got and being able to step into what their next events are going to be. Next up, we have Pimley and Pimley. So Pimley is a financial education platform, and they were doing events all across the globe. And when travel got shut down, they didn't have a real way to actually get in front of their clients to present their information and their education anymore. So what we did was bring virtual training to them. So we implemented a full platform for them. We actually developed the PowerPoints with them. We used WebEx instead of Zoom. This was back when Zoom was getting some bad press on their security features. We actually had a moderator help them out so that they didn't have to worry about the technology and getting people in and out of the meetings and things like that. If anybody had questions, we were there to support them with it, being able to build that out, and then eventually added in online testing. So it was an interesting way to go because what they wanted to understand was, hey, how engaged are people? Are they people actually watching this, or are they just sitting there putting it on another screen and checking their emails or something like that? So we actually had, with WebEx, there's an engagement piece where you can see how many people are actively engaged in the webinar, and then afterwards we actually started doing the online testing. And this was for a multinational bank corporation over in Singapore. So this was actually the other side of the world for us. So we were up in the middle of the night actually running these for them, and while it was daytime for them over in Singapore, we were running this between 11 and 1 in the morning, I think, and then from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. And these were 4-hour events on each side of it. But it was a great way for them to start engaging their audience. And again, you start small, and it was, the first week we had 30 attendees. Week 3, we had 60 attendees. And now that we're adding on, we're continuing to grow this program for them so that they're reaching more. They're just going out to more banks, and they're getting in front of more of their clients. And it's just changing up the way that they do business. So I'm going to open it up for questions right now. One of the big things around all of this is really about how do you shift? How do you grow? How do you adapt? Because what ends up happening is that it's easy to run into a brick wall thinking that, you're doing the right thing, or it looks like you might be making the right decisions, but when down the line, it's how do you grow and adapt to avoid the brick wall, and making sure that, digital marketing is really part of not just an emergency situation, but it really is where things are going. And that's what I was hoping to get from those graphs is you can see the decline from trade shows and what people are looking for, and how digital marketing is really ramping up in what people are looking for. And we didn't even dive into kind of how each of those different solutions within digital marketing are really starting to get leveraged, and you can do digital product showcases and launch events for your different products. And it's no longer limited to time and territory with a trade show, but can go on for a couple of months and have some legs over their whole year. So let's see here. I'm going to check the board and see where we are at. One chat. Cool. Can you dive a little deeper into the benefits of a retargeting campaign? Yeah, so retargeting is actually really cool. If you have ever gone to Amazon, which I'm assuming most of you have, then you have noticed that suddenly there is something that will follow you around. You'll see, the shoes that you're looking for, the bag that you're looking for. I don't know why, but I buy a lot of Gatorade on Amazon just because it's easier to get to me. But all of a sudden I see ads for Gatorade and everything that I've looked for all over the internet, everywhere I go, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, CNN and Fox and all the news channels. That's retargeting. Basically what happens is, a little pixel gets put onto your computer, and it says, hey, show these ads to these people. And what works really well with, from a psychological standpoint, is called your neuroreticular activating system. And that basically says like, hey, when you drive off a car lot and you just bought a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. It's the same effect with retargeting, right? You go to a website and then all of a sudden you start seeing ads for that company everywhere. And it just is a subtle reminder, and it kind of builds that brand recognition for it of, hey, oh, I was interested in that. So that's why retargeting has become so big, because one, it's very cheap to do through Google. Two, it's extremely effective in getting people back to your website. And we know that, 90% of people, they're not always ready to buy when they hit your website the first time. Retargeting gives you that second chance at getting, them back to your website. That's why it works so well. And then another question, how can someone market a product through a campaign like that? So if you were to actually set up retargeting campaigns for each different product, if they go to specific product pages on your website, you can serve ads to them about that particular product. And if you understand the buyer's journey on that product itself, then you can almost set a 30, 60, 90-day cookie for that retargeting campaign to show them different ads as they age, so that they could be seeing different product information. They could see the benefits of that product. They could see why that product, what goes into it, the story behind it. And those are the different ways that you're actually going to really grow engagement, so that you can kind of start building that product launch formula for it. So it's really, they come to the website, they see that particular product, and then they'll keep seeing it afterwards. And it's a great way to continue to get your brand in front of them and then move forward. Cool. What else we got? I attend events to mainly network and gain new business leads. You mentioned social media is a great way to network virtually. Do you have an example of how I can take advantage of that? Is social media a great way? Yeah. So obviously that was the whole goal of social media, right? It used to be called social networking, where it was a social network of people. And social media, social networking is a great way to actually distribute the content that you put onto your website by itself. So whether you're doing a product launch or you're doing this to grow your network and understand, how you actually start creating new connections. One of the best ways is really strategically to say, who am I looking to meet? And I kind of segmented. Most networking that I did, I was looking for people that were in front of the clients I wanted to be in front of with complementary, non-competitive products and services. So any company that I was looking at, they're always going to have somebody that advises them on HR, on legal stuff, on accounting stuff, on payroll. So I was always looking for, all right, who are the salespeople or the contacts at different law firms, accounting firms, and things like that, to really start building a relationship with them so that they could recommend me as a marketing guy to their clients. And that's honestly what worked best for me ever, was really building those strategic alliances. And then, you can do that through social media just by saying, okay, well, who are these different peoples, or who's a lawyer for, one specific industry, or who's, the main accounting firm for this industry. And once you start doing that and identifying that, then it's a matter of, how do you get in? How do you open that door? How do you say hello? What's somebody going to do? Why should they listen to you? And it's really about positioning yourself as an expert and taking an interest in them. The best book on social media ever written was actually written in 1936, and it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Take an active interest in other people on social media. Read what they're posting. Ask them questions. Don't just go in and say, hey, I want your client lists, or, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn, or you came up in my recommended profile. I think we should be friends. Take an interest in them. Actually ask them questions. What do they do? What do they see? What's their biggest challenges? And start a conversation. and realize it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, there are people that I have on LinkedIn that, I've probably had for 15 years and never said 2 words to. There's other people that we've, connected. They've taken an interest in me and what I'm putting out there. And, we do business, and it's quick and easy like that. But again, it comes down to you taking an active interest in somebody else, not just doing it to get business out of them. Does that make sense? Cool. Is there one channel that's better than another to network? It would depend on your target audience, right? So, Facebook is a fantastic way to get in front of consumers. LinkedIn is probably obviously the best known, business networking one, but it depends what your goals are and what you're trying to do. If you're looking to network with other business people, it's LinkedIn, leveraging groups and leveraging pages to get through it. Cool. Another question. How do you recommend marketing the various virtual event webinars to potential customers to gain better attendance? That's a good one. Ways to market various virtual events. I think social media marketing is a fantastic way to go. Again, depending on who the audience is and who you're trying to attract to the virtual event, the different social channels, I think PR and media relations is a great way to go. I think leveraging a pay-per-click campaign of people who are searching for specific virtual events. I showed you the graphs. People are searching for virtual events like crazy right now because they don't have the trade shows to go to. So if you optimize for the term in who knows what industry you're in, it could be, plastics or manufacturing, put whatever industry you're in and virtual event after it into Google and see what comes up. I guarantee there's not much competition for it. And it's a great way to go because it's a wide open market. And with the way things are going now, the global decline in trade shows and people actually searching for them and the global uptick in the number of people searching for virtual events, leveraging search engine optimization just on the term virtual events is going to be extremely well. Email marketing has been our best source for generating attendance to webinars like this. As well as social media, just posting it out there and getting it in front of groups. But it's a continuous effort. We put it on our website where, blogs, we put blogs out that optimize for specific key phrases. Those do well over a period of time. But ultimately, finding the right partners is another great way to market your virtual event and your webinars. Like who else is going to be on it? If it's only your company specifically, leverage your employees to say, hey, share this out on social media. If you are bringing in other experts, leverage their audience. It's really about being able to connect with people and say, hey, push this out through your social channels. Can you send out an email blast to your email list? That would be one of the best ways. I think the partnership in creating that virtual event or webinars is one of the best ways to expand your audience, grow it beyond who you are, who your company is, and start leveraging other people's assets. There's other people's money, there's other people's time, there's other people's events, there's other people's mailing lists. And it's a great way to get out there and start building the attendance for your events, your virtual events, and your webinars. So I hope that answered your question there. Great. At this point, I know we're a little bit beyond where we normally are, but if you're interested, if you want to talk more, if you want to continue the discussion, thank you so much for your time today. Check us out. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. You can follow us at CMA Results on most of those. If not, you can reach out to me directly, send me an email. We'll be sending out the recording of this shortly, hopefully in the next couple hours or a day. And as soon as we do that, if I didn't answer your question, please shoot it to me and I'll try and get through the rest of them. But I want to thank everybody for their time today, and thanks.